All right, welcome in everyone. We are here for day 2 of the Grand Finals here of our Conquest tournament. Yesterday we got to see in 5 games Will take it down over Lucas, and with Will coming from the lower bracket, that triggered a bracket reset here. So today it is going to be for all the marbles. Whoever wins today takes the entire tournament. Today it's not just me and Alex, but we also have Emery joining us here to bring some commentary of the games. And yeah, it should be a fun day. We've got all new decks from both players. We've got the Archaladon here from Will, played by Lucas yesterday. And Lucas playing the Zard that Will played yesterday. So they both traded one decks. They both are bringing Palkia and then new decks from Lugia and Raging Bolt here.
Looks like we've got Lugia and Charizard starting things off here. I have to assume it's Lugia because of the squawk ability active?
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's a squawk ability, meaning that it's the Lugia. I can check the list here. Let's see if Will's playing.
Oh, it's definitely Lugia. I saw gift energy in hand.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, starting off with Lugia versus Charizard.
Always feels good to get that squawk right off the bat.
Oh, for sure.
Unless you have 7 energies in hand.
Alright. Lucas going first, just going for this first deck search here, opening the Duskull. Duskull, a pretty good tool in this matchup, especially with Will able to use things like that gift energy. And between the gift energy and between the legacy energy, the Duskull are able to go around it to stop the extra draws or stop the reduced prize card being taken. So definitely going to want to make sure we get a second one down at some point because it's going to be a huge, important piece here for Lucas in this matchup for sure. Got a pretty simple turn 1 though. Just going to get the Rotom out, get one Charmander. Probably going to be leading into an instant charge here and then seeing what Will's first explosive turn can do here. There we go. Gonna have to see what Lucas does with that next turn. I saw 2 rare candies go into the hand off the instant charge. Gonna be interesting to see if we can find anything else like the Ultra Baller and Arven to go along with it here. Will starting off pretty easy though with just a Nest Ball. Gonna probably be looking for that first Lugia V unless we already have one in hand. Then might be looking for something else like the Minccino here to get it ready to evolve to take one shot, one hit KOs onto the Charizard.
Waiting to see Will's hand here. It looks like there's 4 energy there, which makes the squawk ability quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Squawk and seize.
Using the Squawk and Seize with 4 energies in hand is certainly not ideal. Sending that many energies away early on could really come back to what bite Will, especially in this matchup where getting to that 330 is going to take a lot of energies, either with the Cinccino or with a weirder V. Gonna need to have access to a lot of those energies to get that done.
Thankfully, we have access to Regigigas as well.
And unfortunately, they just don't have access because this was a tournament before Badu and Regigigas came out. So these are going to be a little bit dated compared to what you're seeing now in tournaments.
What is that? Yeah.
Especially with that Regigigas coming through, this Lugia matchup definitely gets better for Lugia after this format. But with us locking the format at the start of the tournament, Will's going to have to make it work without the use of the Regigigas here. Is leaning back in, has the 2-2 line of the Cinccino, as well as the Weird Ear V still, as the attackers of choice here. Also rocking the Iron Hands as well, as a potential to take some prizes there with that.
I think he's really thinking if he wants to squawk and seize his hand or not.
He's also got a Mesa Goza he's probably contemplating. Not sure we want to give Lucas access to Pokemon with only one Charmander in play.
Yep, and Will even saying verbally at the table, "I don't think I want to help you," and then Squawkin seizing away the Misagoza. Yep. Of course, we know how important that Misagoza would have been for Lucas. As we saw, Lucas has the rare candies already, just needs access to those Pokemon. So Will choosing to not put that Misagoza in play was a pretty good choice on their part. Gonna see if losing those 3 energies early though, and losing one of the Chinchinos comes back to bite them later.
How many energy did that research hit? Did we get a good look at that?
2. It was a missed energy and a double turbo.
Oh, man.
Wow.
So 3 energy down, 1 attached. But Lucas's hand is not looking too great. Probably going to have to hit it with an instant charge.
He's going right back into the draw instant charge. This time at least we were able to see Lucas grabbing Arven off of that instant charge. So barring an Iono from Will, going to be able to start playing the game next turn. But Will definitely gets to start on the front foot here.
With that Ogre Pond coming up to the active here, that's going to be a very, very strong turn for Will if he's able to get that Summoning Star ability up, getting that Ogre Pond powered up, and taking a 2-prize KO.
Tails, that'll be
Tails
a basic
is a problem.
Pokemon.
Probably not what Will's looking for here. Has the 1 Archeops in the discard pile from the Read to Wind. Not sure if there's a second one yet. Could try to get aggressive here with the early 2 knockouts. Would be able to take out the Duskull and the Charmander. But would have to commit to 1 Archeops unless we find a way to discard another Archeops off of this hand here.
Looks like he has an Ultra Ball in hand. Did he have the second Archeops?
Oh, he just researched one away so he could get the second one in the discard.
Alright,
So
So
we
that's-
did have the second one in the research. Gotcha.
That's
But
going to be a very aggressive turn for Will.
it definitely looks like we are down a lot of energies though from Will's side here. We already saw at least 3 go from turn 1. The research sending at least another one away with that double turbo that's at the top of the deck.
Oh, no.
But we are able to set up the double Archeops here and use the first one to start getting this Teal Mask or Wellspring Mask Ogre Pond up and going. And we'll be able to knock out the only Charmander on Lucas's board. So that Arven that we found for the side of Lucas is not going to be the out anymore to getting a Charizard up this turn. Gonna have to find a Thornton and an access to the Charizard EX instead here.
It also looked like when he's been using these researches, there's quite a bit of Pokemon that got dumped right into that discard pile as well. So that might be limiting some of Will's factors to be able to start pushing if Lucas is able to get himself back in the driver's seat here.
If Lucas can find a comeback turn, Will could have a hard time closing out the game. With so many energies down, with being down the Blood Moon Ursaluna and at least one of those Chinchinos, could end up being pretty difficult here. It's like Will being nice enough to count out how much energies that they're down at this point for us. Looks like it is only 4. So that part won't be as bad. But still, we are bench locked as well on the side of Will, importantly to note. So we're not going to be able to get a Minccino down to evolve into a Chinchino for at least 2 turns here.
Now, does Lucas play Manaphy in this list?
We can check here. I know that Will played it yesterday, but we'll see if Lucas is playing a similar list or went with a few variations.
I'm guessing based off of that second Charmander and Pidgey that he probably doesn't.
Yeah, it does not look like he does. He plays the Cleffa, is not playing the Manaphy, which is a little bit more traditional nowadays from Charizard, not really playing that Manaphy nearly as much as we used to see in the past. But
So in this matchup, without that Manaphy, that Ogre Pond is going to run wild on this board, especially if Will has a boss's orders in hand.
even without the boss's orders, just being able to go in with the Ogre Pond again and take another 2 prize cards would essentially seal the game from what I can tell.
The only good thing I can see is that Lucas does have Thornton in hand, as well as a rare candy. If we can get a Charizard up with no Minchinos in play, perhaps there's a line here to work our way back into this game.
Definitely a bit rough overall, though.
Yeah, definitely a rough first few set of draws. Those first instant charges not really doing what Lucas needed them to do for him to be able to play the game. Now we see the heads from that. Gonna be able to grab the evolution here. It doesn't have the basic, or it's not able to bench the basic yet, but we're just gonna be able to set up, just start getting some extra energies on the board. So if a Charizard does come through and take the knockout, Will can threaten to just go in with Weird Ear V and take the final 2 prize cards.
Now, I'm guessing with this energy setup on the Squawkabilly, there's potentially a Thornton play in the future for Will.
Will, I don't believe, plays Thornton in their list today. Thornton's more of a staple in the newer lists that we see in the Badu format. But it looks like Will is playing it today, yeah. So does have that Thornton. So either being able to Thornton into something like the Minccino and instantly evolve it into a Cinccino and already have energy set up on it, or if something like a Boss's Orders with onto something like the Rotom or the Pheasantipede is also going to be an out here, just taking the prizes with the Lugia V-Star as well.
Did look like Lucas did get a counter catcher here. Little hard to tell, but it looks like he might be able to at least get this Charizard up and online this turn, utilizing that Forest Seal Stone to get the remaining pieces he needs.
Yeah, it looks like even after all these turns, the remaining piece is still a Charizard EX, the same piece that we've been missing for many, many turns for Lucas here, still eluding him. But we already know has 2 rare candies in hand, so we're going to be able to go use the first one, set up that Pidgeot, and then use the Pidgeot to grab our Charizard here, along with a Thornton onto something like the Rotom. Especially with that Lugia V having a double turbo energy attached to it, only doing 200 damage now, is not going to be able to threaten to knock out the Pheasantipede with the attackers on board. Will isn't, but we'll still have options with something like the Thornton or a Weird Ear to try and find the last 2 prize cards on this following turn.
That Thornton for Charmander, we were all kind of expecting that.
We have our Charizard up finally, at long last for Lucas. And we'll see if it's enough. The good news for Lucas is that this Charizard is one-shotting everything now. It's not going to have to worry about taking 2 turns to knock out something like the Lugia V-Star, since it's already doing 300. We'll not have to use Dusk Noir to try and skew that, but
Lucas smartly counter-capturing the Squawkabilly with the anticipation of a Thornton play to remove that threat of a Thornton Cinccino.
As much as I like preloading some of those energies, I don't know about loading all of them onto the Squawkabilly, especially if we're thinking about going into a Weird Ear V as an option here, spreading those out, maybe putting 1 on the Squawkabilly and 2 on the Lugia V or something like that. With the Lugia V also being able to be used as a Thornton target could have been better off for Will, but
My guess is I think he was actually maybe looking to plan to put that Minccino from his discard pile using Thornton, and then already having the energy on it to power up to be able to take that Charizard out a little bit easier. But kind of in the same realm as it probably would have been a little bit better to not put as much energy out all at once, or even spreading it out, so if you do end up utilizing that Weird Ear.
Especially with access to both Archeops, you can still get that Cinccino charged up with 1 turn.
Yeah.
Even as long as there's 1 extra energy on it, you don't really have to worry about it. So could have played around not getting that Squawkabilly gusted and knocked out, but
Will definitely really low on energy. It did not look like he had much left in the tank here. He's probably got
But I think they have just enough to take knockout here.
There we go. Seeing the Thornton play come out, getting that Minccino down. We already has the Cinccino in hand from the last turn, using the catcher. and just going to be as simple as getting 5 energies onto that Cinccino for knockout. The double turbo able to be the last one there. There we go. First game going over to Will here with Lugia.
Very early aggressive discard. Finds the pieces we need. And a slow start from Charizard.
Yeah, Charizard with the slow start definitely came back to hurt it.
It's in charge like 3 turns in a row.
Yeah, Will not getting punished for having to... not getting punished for losing so many of those early resources, like the early Minccino, like those early energies, and is able to just close out. Just that Wellspring Mask Ogrepon, just putting in a lot of work.
It's kind of a perfect storm for Lugia. Go out because I'm not seeing the mixer go up anymore.
He's scrolling.
Alrighty. Looks like Lucas is going to stick with the same deck here. Just going straight back with that Charizard.
I definitely feel like for this next matchup, Will is probably going to be looking more towards that Palkia deck. Archelodon does struggle a little bit into Charizard. It's not impossible, but it's more of an uphill battle. And Will probably wants to try and secure a second victory before trying to finish off the matchup with one of the probably a little bit more slightly less favored matchups for him.
Oh, for sure, yeah. The Palkia usually having a better matchup here into Charizard, especially than Archelodon. But looks like Will's going to be saving that Archelodon for last here.
Saving the Palkia for last.
Saving the Palkia for last, sorry. Going with the Archelodon, just trying to give themselves as many chances to win with Archelodon as they can here, especially with this Charizard matchup being a pretty difficult one for Archelodon. Probably the hardest matchup, I think, of the meta decks for it.
We've got Lucas going first here with a Buddy Poffin. He's also got an Arven in hand to follow up on the next turn. I do not believe I see access to a Rotom, which would have been nice, but nevertheless, this is much better than the previous game.
Yeah, already a better start than we saw from game 1 here for Lucas. Going to be able to get more than one chance. Charmander down here on turn 1, and going to have access to deck search with the Arven on turn 2 already.
More than likely going to see a Charizard in the follow-up turn compared to last game.
It's just going to come down to can Will try and find a way back into this game, whether that's through taking those extra turns with Dialga, through just walling out and just being annoying in the active. Looking at the list, Will is not playing Relicanth in their list today. Not playing Relicanth, just playing straightforward, consistent, with plenty of energy, plenty of supporters, and just trying to be a big wall here. Not going to have access to something like letting, like we talked about from Lucas potentially doing yesterday when we were watching this matchup, of letting the Archelodon take a 210 damage hit from the Charizard, and then using the Relicanth to one-shot something like the Pidgeot EX, hitting for 290.
Yeah.
So Will not going to have access to that, so it's going to be much more difficult for Will to take those 2 prize turns, especially if Lucas can avoid, like he already has, putting Rotom into play, putting things like Lumineon or Fezandipity to be easier targets for Will with this Archelodon's attack.
Now, not playing the Relicanth in this matchup today does seem a bit interesting here.
Yeah, definitely can be interesting. I definitely like playing either the Relicanth or playing the Duskmoor line. It just unlocks more opportunities for you to take those one-turn knockouts on some of the bigger two-prizers that aren't in that 220 range. So anything like Raging Bolts, if Will has to play this matchup into Raging Bolt later on, or into like your stage 2s, like your Pidgeot EX, the mirror. If Lucas had brought Archaludon as well, Relicanth does a lot of work in the mirror.
Yeah.
Looks like Lucas accidentally missed a card when picking up his deck for to put it on top of the hand for the Iono. Yep, just fixing that there. Imagine Lucas will be shuffling the deck before getting back to that point in the deck, but just good to be safe, just good to be consistent.
Not a lot found off that Iono for Will, just another Dialga. Very prone board state here. Should Lucas have Candy Charizard?
Yeah, if Lucas can get this attack off this turn with the Charizard, would put Will on a very large back foot here for the rest of this game. Looks like we have the Ultra Ball, so we have one piece of it, and looks like we have a rare candy in hand, so we can for sure get a Charizard out. The question is just going to be, can we get anything more? Do we want to try to get any more? Lucas looks like has the Iono as well. Could gamble on something like going Candy up into a Pidgeot and then using the Iono and just hoping to hit either a Candy or a way to find the Charizard off of the Iono to get both of them up. But does run the risk of, if this Iono finds none of those pieces, not being able to get an attack off this turn.
Looks like he is opting to make the safer play and just continue to develop his board.
Saying that this is a favorable matchup. I'm okay if you end up taking this knockout, even if I whiff my attack here. Should be benching that Charmander there down, and we'll see this Iono come out. Importantly, is also able to shuffle the deck, so that Lumineon that was sent to the bottom, and any of the other pieces that we had in the hand able to be shuffled back in. Just thinking of for Seal Stone Target being another out to a piece. Looks like we have, I can't quite tell on the back of the hand, is that the Charizard EX? But we for sure have an Ultra Ball at the front of the hand. So with the Quick Search, going to for sure be able to get an attack off with this Charizard here.
Yeah, this attack here is going to be very, very good for Lucas in this matchup. Being able to keep him off those Duraludons to evolve into Archaludon, it's going to make it much, much harder for Will to be able to come back into this game.
Yeah, especially already going second in this matchup is already very, very difficult for the Archaludon side of things. This is already a pretty hard matchup, so you have to kind of just go fast, try and start taking those prize cards early, and then look for a 3 or 4 prize turn to close out the game with the Dialga V-Star. At least has been my most successful times playing this matchup. So going second and not getting a second Duraludon down is going to be extremely detrimental to Will's side here going forwards. Also see the Dusclops evolve naturally here, so Lucas is going to be able to knock out that Dialga V next turn, even if Will does not take any prize cards here. Going to be able to start threatening those 2 prizers here, with even though the Charizard's only hitting 180 right now.
180 is still enough to take out the Duraludon, though.
Yep, for sure going to be able to get this knockout here, and we're going to have to see what Will's able to draw. Well, there's the Nest Ball, a little bit later than they'd like to see it, I'm sure. Always the next card, right? But that's at least one way to start. And I'm curious now with this Nest Ball if we're going to grab the Duraludon or if we need to go for something like the Pheasantipity. See what the rest of this hand holds. If we do already have something like that Thornton here to try to get an attack going. We already know Will has the second Dialga V in the hand here. So if we Thornton this one out of play, would still be able to bench another one. Also has energy in hands. Could have gone for something like that Radiant Greninja to draw some more cards here. Looks like we're just going to go straight into a research. So Will saying I am not going to get an attack off this turn, especially with the attach onto the Duraludon. Not going to be able to attach to that Dialga and evolve potentially for a Metal Blast. Or use something like Metal Coating to get some energy on it here. So we are able to find the Fezandipity, which is good. Going to be able to draw through the deck here. Nest Ball, get a second Duraludon now. The last thing Will kind of wants to find this turn, ideally, would be a way to get a third Duraludon down. With that Dusclops sitting on the bench here being a threat to target down a Duraludon, if Lucas doesn't get many more Duraludons down, or if Will doesn't get any more Duraludons down, Lucas could just threaten to go evolve into Dusknoir, KO the only Duraludon into play, and if Will had had a second one down, use the Pidgeot just to find a boss's orders here and take out 2, which is why I was thinking that we would try to find 3 if we could this turn, but We're going to be opting to draw more cards instead between the Greninja and the Fezandipity, so we're going to have a lot more cards to see here to try to get into 1 or 2 more Duraludons on the bench, at least.
Well, it does look like he has that Ultra Ball in hand, too, and he just picked up a Night Stretcher, so there's a very good opportunity he's going to get those other 2 onto the board for next turn.
So we're going to bench the Dialga V instead here, so this still makes me a little bit scared about the possibility if Lucas does go for something like Boss's Orders onto one of the Duraludons and just using Dusknoir on the other one. Then Will is right back on the same page where they have to find a Thornton to get an attack off.
And Lucas has top decked the Boss's Orders for turn. And with this quick search now, we can go get the Dusknoir and make the play that Tanner was mentioning and wipe both Duraludons from the field, just essentially wrapping this game up.
Yeah, Will going to be down 3 prize cards to 6 at this point, an already pretty difficult matchup. Lucas definitely going to be comfortable in this driver's seat, especially after this Dusknoir forcing Will to take a prize card going down to 5. So 210 is going to be a lot more relevant number, especially with Fezandipity already hitting the board here. Lucas going to be able to threaten, especially if Lucas can get another Duskull down this turn, going to be able to threaten to go with a Boss's Orders on the Fezandipity and just another Dusknoir to close the game next turn.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like Charizard victory in the coming turn here.
A pretty efficient game for the Charizard here. This matchup already difficult, but especially with the Charizard not benching that Rotom early, not having to use a Lumineon at all throughout the game, just makes it so much harder for the Duraludon from Will to find those 2 prize knockouts. Especially without access to the Relicanth here.
Yeah. And you can see making that choice to get the Pidgeot EX online as opposed to just setting up a Charizard and potentially whiffing has paid off. That play was not possible without the quick search ability from Pidgeot EX.
Exactly. Paid off very well for Lucas here. That quick search just kind of smoothing over the last 3 turns, honestly, just to put Lucas in such a commanding position. You're going to see the Pokestop come out finally. Going to see what Will can piece together here. Going to be looking for a Thornton play again if we want to find an attack this turn. But even with a Thornton play, we're not going to have a knockout this turn unless we can do something like Counter Catcher up the Charmander. And at that point, do we even want to take the 1 prize knockout onto the Charmander?
I don't think we do.
Because at that point, when you do that, this Charizard's just going to start to hit 240, and it can target down the Dialga Vs as well. Those aren't even safe anymore.
Yeah, at this point, Lucas is 1 quick search Boss's Orders away from being able to take this game.
Essentially 1 Boss's Orders away from taking this game here. I wonder as well, part of me wonders if there's a line with Dusknoir that Lucas would be able to pull off next turn to close out the game, but without getting the Duskull down last turn, not going to be able to gust up 2 prizer that we can one-shot and use the Dusknoir to take a prize card, especially with that Greninja coming out of play. But I do imagine Will be benching another Duraludon here. for the next turn, so would have a Dusknoir target if there was a Duskull in play that we had access to, but even if we do take one prize card with the Duskull onto this Duraludon, the Charizard's still only going to be hitting for 240, so not quite enough to one-shot the Archaludon just yet.
Does Lucas have a Thornton play possibility here?
The problem would be if we Thornton, we still could not knock out the active Pokemon. So we couldn't take all 3 prize cards this turn. Since Lucas was able to jump so far ahead on this prize race, hasn't. The downside being not able to use counter catchers at all this game. But I don't think Lucas is complaining too much about the board state that he's in.
This is something Charizard likes to do occasionally. You know, the deck does typically like to go a little bit behind at first to be able to really push itself forward towards the later half of the game. But sometimes everything just kind of falls into place and you can really just start getting super aggressive with it.
Exactly. Sometimes it just all works out and you can just be an aggressive deck rather than a comeback deck. It's one of those powers of the power of rare candy and getting to take a card out of your deck every single turn with Pidgeot.
Yeah.
Still has access to the V-Star too. If there were some type of line to piece together this turn, using like Lumineon and the V-Star would help us get there, but probably just going to be looking for a way to rebench a Duskull here for the next turn, as well as just threatening maybe a knockout onto something like the Lumineon here or the Dialga V, just to go down to 1 prize card.
It's turns like this where even though you don't usually see it in Charizard, sometimes you just wish you had a Pokemon catcher in your deck.
Sometimes I swear every deck wishes their counter catchers could be Pokemon catchers. Going to be going with this Iono, has the quick search access still too here. Decided to Night Stretcher for the Charizard, the Radiant Charizard here, rather than something like one of those Dusknoir pieces.
Well, the nice thing about Radiant Charizard here too is you know that you can go ahead and safely let this Charizard go down because they're not going to be able to take the prizes they need in order to win in 2 turns. So you can go ahead and safely let this Charizard go down, put a little damage out, and then you're just a boss's orders and a little bit of energy away from being able to take this game and seal it away.
Lucas always having the opportunity to play for something like a Briar turn as well here, just to close out next turn. Letting Will go down to 2 prize cards if we can get a Duskull down, and evolve it into Dusclops next turn and use a Briar. That would put Will down to 2 prize cards and just be an easy 3 prize cards with the Charizard EX on the following turn. But we'll have to see what line Lucas has access to with the cards in his hand, cards in his deck. Playing down to a 0-card hand right now, so we'll have to see what we can find off the top next turn for Lucas.
This is definitely the moment where Will probably wishes he had a TM Devo in the deck.
Yeah, especially with 3 of those candies being used now on the side of Lucas, Devo to take a prize card and make it even harder for Lucas to find an attack on the next turn would be huge.
Or see a Pokestop use.
You know, some Charizard lists playing the Pokestop themselves, so
They definitely do tend to opt for quite a bit aggressive approach compared to the typical Charizard list with the Pokestops in them.
let's see here if Lucas, not sure if Lucas has access to another Duskull in the deck or not, opting not to use that Buddy Buddy Poffin. So we're just going to have a board of a lot of big stage 2s into Radiant Charizard right now. Now, Will could have a pretty good turn, though, potentially here. The stage is set for, if we had a way to get back into that Thornton again, could be looking for a Dialga V-Star turn here. Down the Scoop Up Cyclone, though, and without Pheasantipity draws here this turn, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Would have to find both the Pal Pad and a way to get back into that Thornton this turn. So we'll see what Will does instead. For sure can take 2 prize cards on this active Charizard with the current Archaludon that's all powered up, but
Now, I do have a question for you, Tanner, as our local resident bridge player.
Oh, of course.
How do you feel about Silene in as a one-of potentially in this Archaeolodon deck to be able to maybe get back things like that Scoop Up Cyclone for future plays?
I've seen lists play it before. The big thing when you play Silene, though, is that you're opting to take a turn off from using a potentially stronger supporter. And you are saying, I'm going to use this supporter for next turn. So it just really comes down to, can you get those extra turns in Archaeolodon where you don't need to be doing something like a Professor's Research to draw cards, or a Boss's Orders to target down a 2-prizer that you can one-shot, or using some type of disruption. So if you can go fast enough with the Archaeolodon to have those extra turns, to say, I'm going to take a turn off and I'm going to use Silene, so next turn I can have something like that Scoop Up Cyclone, or some other piece that you need to close out the game next turn. It's fantastic. But from my experience, my limited experience to be fair, I have not found it to be the case where I have those extra turns.
I can't use flip the script. There was not a knockout that occurred.
There was no knockout with... Will is just looking for a Gust on the Charizard to stall here. This game is still the writing's pretty much on the wall here. Luke is still having access to that Turo and a quick search. Importantly enough, actually, as we see Lucas pick up the prize cards there, Professor's Turo scenario was in the prizes. So Will would have had the opportunity to try to stall out a turn or two. So, especially given that Will opted to evolve both Charizards already, so would not have the option to evolve into a Charizard and accelerate 3 energy to manually move this Radiant Charizard. Because of that, and the fact that Turo was prized, the stall might have ended up working. Now, would that have been enough to give Will the opportunity to win the game is a different story. Would have still had to, at some point, start taking prize cards. Archaeolodon typically going through their deck a little bit faster than the Charizard does. Charizard just searching out a card, whereas the Archaeolodon trying to spam those Professor's Researches and drawing extra cards. So I don't imagine that the Archaeolodon would have won the war of deck size, but I think that lock would have stuck for a little bit at least. Alright, now let's see what is going to be the next decks of choice here.
Looks like Lucas went ahead and showed us the Raging Bolt already.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Lucas, for helping us out as we get ready for the deck choices here.
Also, looks like there's different sleeves, so I believe that the Will be on the Palkia list for this matchup.
Will going over to Palkia here, and Lucas on the Raging Bolt. I have not played much of this matchup. I actually don't know how it goes.
I do not have a clue.
I think for this matchup, it might actually still be a little bit more favored in the direction of the Palkia deck, just because they do have options of a decent amount of single prizers that they can promote, kind of forcing Raging Bolt to be able to gust around to what they need, while the Palkia deck builds up to what they need to be able to take out the Bolts and the Ogre Pawns.
Definitely gonna have to see how fast this Raging Bolt can go. How many of those liabilities that Will has to bench, those extra 2 prizers, or if we can keep it pretty simple, pretty concise bench here.
It does look like Will has that Hoot Hoot and a Palkia V in hand to start, as well as that Mew in the active to be able to retreat into what he feels is better in the active spot.
So has the free retreat already with a Mew. Looks like a pretty good turn. The one thing that we're missing now for Will would be to find that Fan Rotom. Not able to find the Fan Rotom. At least has the Hoot Hoot down, but...
Other than that, though, it did not look like he had very much gas in the following turn either, so we might be on a bit of a slower start for Palkia, which this deck does tend to like to try and start getting a bit aggressive turn 2.
From my own experience playing Palkia, I played it in my last round of the Conquest before I got knocked out by Will, actually. I played this exact deck against them, and I kind of had a similar fate against Will. in 2 of our games where I kept trying to use the Palkia and just kept kind of falling short, having those slower starts, and getting punished for it by just faster decks. So we'll see if Will can find some lines, though, to come back in it if they don't have that explosive of a turn next turn. Importantly as well, I kind of want to look at this list here, because I believe the Mew EX is unique. It's different from the Alex Szymanski list that we saw get second place in San Antonio just a few weekends ago.
I have seen the Mew in a few deck lists here and there, but in terms of success, Alex Szymanski did have one of the better success stories for the deck in the most recent events that we've had.
Definitely nice from my experience having a pivot for this deck, especially when you're using that Glass Trumpet. You have to have your colorless Pokemon on the bench to attach to them. Having something like that Mew definitely seems like it would make a lot of sense in this deck. Just having that free pivot so you can promote your Terapagoses after the turn instead of having to find something like a Prime Catcher or a Switch to move them up if you haven't gotten an extra attach on them already on a previous turn.
Plus, who doesn't like drawing cards?
Exactly. So another consistency piece on top of being a pivot piece here. One important change between the Alex Szymanski list and Will's list is that Will is not playing the Technical Machine Devolution. Could have been important if Will had brought the Palkia into the Charizard. Going to be much less important here in the Raging Bolt matchup, and even the Mirror as well. I imagine the Devo not going to get nearly as much use.
I don't think I'd want to put any Noctowls back into my opponent's hand.
Yeah, letting them reuse the Noctowls does not seem like something high on my list of to-dos in the Mirror, that's for sure. Just interesting to see how important the deck order ends up being with those type of inclusions. Because if Will had been playing something like the TM Devo, could have gotten punished by not getting to play the Palkia into the Charizard at all in this best of 5. But since did not have to play it against the Charizard, is going to be able to have that extra space from the list here, going to be able to cheat it.
Lucas off to a very aggressive start here. He might be looking for blood in the water, trying to be able to take out that Mew right off the bat.
Oh, for sure.
Looks like he did find a Professor Sada. I believe the fuller is towards the back of the hand.
So we have the trekking shoes here as well. Yep, looks like that second to last card, I believe. Looks like we have another Bravery Charm as well here. Would be able to put it onto something like, honestly, even just throwing the Bravery Charm on the Squawkabilly, I don't hate. Making it a little bit less of a liability. 210, still decently easy for this Palkia deck to reach. But certainly takes a little bit more effort than the simple 160. Even now, just one more Pokemon on our bench would allow the Palkia to be hitting for 160 this next turn.
Does not look like he has the energy in hand to be able to take this attack.
So is not able to find the attach return. Finds the Raging Bolt afterwards, so not get the extra acceleration.
Just a real lack of energy from these opening stages.
Yeah, didn't even have a second energy in the discard pile to try to accelerate it.
One Earthen Vessel in that opening hand for the Grass and Lightning we see in play. That was it.
Well, Will given a bit of a breath of fresh air here. Looks like we have the top deck of the Judge too, to try to find a way back into this game here.
It's going to be very helpful for him if he gets a lot of cards that he can kind of use, because then he'll be able to make that Mew a lot more valuable to him to be able to dig through his deck a bit more.
Oh, for sure. Another thing of note as well is that with the second energy on the Palkia and the free retreat of the Mew, we could see the Palkia try to take a knockout this turn. As I already mentioned, a Prime Catcher would get us the knockout onto the Squawkabilly already. Getting up to the... And there's the Prime Catcher. It just would need the evolution here at this point.
Ooh, and the Greninja.
Or even
He's able to grab...
Or the Terapagos,
So if we have a Hoothoot in hand, or the Noctowl in hand to go with that Hoothoot, looks like we get to see the Greninja, Boss's Orders, and the Pheasantipity prize. 3 good targets for that heavy ball to hit here.
That is
Especially with this deck wanting to utilize as much bench space as possible for its attacks. Having 3 Pokemon, especially high impact Pokemon like that, in your prizes can be a bit detrimental. As long as Will is able to kind of set up a decent board here, though, it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Oh, for sure. Definitely just going to be interesting to see what these last 3 cards in the hand are. If we have a way to evolve that Hoot into a Noctowl here, and try to push for an early 2-prize knockout. I'm thinking the math as well on to hit 240. You need 9 bench Pokemon, I believe, between both players.
I can't tell exactly, but it does look like there is a Noctowl in hands.
So it's just going to come down to now, how can we sequence this out? Lucas only having 3 bench Pokemon, so Will filling their bench would not do enough. Would only get the Palkia V-Star up to 220 damage this turn. Would have to find the stadium as well, the Area 0 Underdepths, and a 6th Pokemon to bench themselves here to take the Raging Bolt. And we did see that Bravery Charm eventually come down onto that Squawkabilly as well, so the 160 is not going to be enough.
So he could go for getting that Area 0 off of here. That's going to allow him to get one more card out of his hand, as well as maybe a Buddy Buddy Poffin if he wants to try and draw into the Palkia, but I think a safer play is going to be potentially searching that Palkia out directly.
Yeah, grabbing something like that Ultra Ball here, playing down the Area 0 and drawing an extra card with Mew would help. I believe one of the last cards in the hand is the Prime Catcher as well, though. Yes. So would use that first. Will should be able to get to 210 to take out the Squawkabilly this turn. 210 just being 8 bench Pokemon, so wouldn't even need the Area 0 Underdepths to get to that 220 to knock out the Squawkabilly, if that's the line that we are going for. Would simply just need to grab something like a Nest Ball here and an Ultra Ball to guarantee the 5th Pokemon on the bench, use the Prime Catcher, bring up the Squawkabilly, and then restart for 2 cards and Ultra Ball away the cards that we draw off of restart to get that Palkia V-Star.
Another nice thing, too, is if he goes for the Squawkabilly, I don't believe Lucas has any energy in the discard pile to utilize, so he would have to be able to search for that plus his Sadas to be able to get some more draw power going.
Yeah, the only way that Lucas would be able to get an energy into the discard pile would be retreating that Ogerpon. And Grass Energy, not necessarily what you want to be accelerating onto your Raging Bolts with Sadas, if you can help it. So I missed it. So we grabbed the Nest Ball for a second.
In a
Professor's research.
In a research. Okay, so it looks like we're just opting into setting up for next turn here. Already used the Judge as our supporter this turn here. So the research for next turn, given that Will does have a pretty small hand here, we'll be able to restart at least for 1. Okay, going to commit here. Interesting.
I kind of thought he was just going to go ahead and retreat that Mew into the Noctowl, holding that Prime Catcher for a later turn.
Wanting to go for that Gust onto the Squawkabilly, make it a little bit more awkward for Lucas. So now Lucas has to find an attack retreat onto the Squawkabilly as well as a Sadas to attack with one of these Raging Bolts this turn. Not going to be able to do it by simply just attaching a Fighting Energy to that Raging Bolt that had the Lightning already attached to it.
Also going to need to find energy here, as all of our energy in play is locked to the board.
It did not look like he had any energy from what I could see. Sometimes with this glare, though, it is a bit hard to see. I catch myself sometimes trying to angle my head thinking that the screen is going to angle with me.
Gonna go in with this first Nest Ball here. Looks like we're gonna grab a Slitherwing, alright.
Very good for this matchup. It allows you to be able to take a knockout on that Terrapagos with its weakness.
The weakness coming into play with the Slitherwing for sure.
Still need to find that Fighting Energy, though.
the rest of the hand yields here. Yeah,
Ooh.
nothing.
That's a pass.
It's just going to be that nest ball and pass here from Lucas's side.
And this is going to be very big for Will here, especially with that professor's research in hand. Looks like he might have drawn the trumpet for turn, which he's going to go ahead and discard since he doesn't have the energy in the discard pile to work with. But being able to refresh to 7 cards in hand with a deck like this allows him to be able to make some very, very impactful plays as long as he draws some cards to help him out here.
The big problem for Will now is that this Noctowl is kind of stranded in the active.
This is very true.
When we prime catchered into that Noctowl, I imagine we did not think that the gust onto Squawkability was going to work.
Now, does the Noctowl have a single retreat cost, or is it a 2?
I believe it is a 2 retreat cost. We can check though, yeah. I believe it's 2 retreat. Will, I assume, as well playing another way to switch here.
I do believe they play the one of switch.
It's like Will is in. Yeah.
Well, the
playing.
Noctowl does have 1 retreat.
Okay, so it
With
does
the
have
one retreat, he does have the energy in hand, and this deck does tend to like to have energy in its discard pile to be able to power up your other mons. This might be an opportunity, especially with that Ultra Ball in hand, for Will to be able to take the first 2 prizes of the match.
Oh, for sure.
Especially with Lucas doing nothing on their previous turn. If they can just keep pushing the advantage here, we could see the victory be secured.
Yeah, especially because the way that Lucas played out that hand is signaling that even if this Squawkability wasn't stuck in the active, he still might not have been able to get an attack. And of course, we know that Lucas, even if the Squawkability was on the bench and the Raging Bolt was in the active, would have just passed straight back to Will anyways.
Now, I do believe Lucas does have a Nest Ball in hand for the follow-up turn. Does he play Pheasantipity in this list?
I believe so. I would have to imagine. It's a pretty normal staple for the matchup here. Yep, we are playing the Pheasantipity EX. So if Will takes the knockout here, at least Lucas will be able to respond with the Pheasantipity draws to try to finally find that energy that he's been missing so far this game. And Will obviously having the attach for turn to retreat, but also has access to a switch and is playing 1 copy of Kieran in the deck as well today. So has a 3rd switching option here alongside the Prime Catcher.
And I can only assume at this point this is going for that Palkia V-Star. He's thinning out his hand a bit too, so he might be able to get a draw or 2 off of Mew.
Going to be able to play down almost entirely this 7-card hand that we had off of the research here. Just drawing into all good playable cards for Will.
Oh, yeah. Looks like Lucas has the Pheasantipity in hand.
Morton has a Pheasantipity in hand, so could use that Nest Ball to go find a 2nd Teal Mask Ogre Pawn to start getting some extra energies attached as well then next turn. Just kind of setting up that board a little bit better for him.
Lucas is definitely just really hungry to see some of that energy so he can maybe be able to start getting something going.
And we do see Will committing that Star Portal now, just wanting to get those energies attached nice and early. Just threatening as well the 2nd attack on the Palkia V, Hydro Break for I believe 200
damage.
I think the thing going
not
through
knock anything out.
I think the thing going through Lucas's hand is where's all my energy at. It does look like he did pick up another grass energy. However, I think he's really just trying to find those fighting energies at this point.
At least the grass energy is going to let us use Teal Dance and continue to dig through the deck a little bit. We have Greninja as well here, so we could use concealed cards first with that grass energy in conjunction with the rescue stretcher that we saw off of and the vessel to go along with it too.
And so the fighting energy.
So we can
hand.
instantly pitch that fighting energy with the vessel for Sadas this turn.
So now we're just digging for a Professor Sada Vitality.
Yep, just need that Sadas Vitality now. Especially with committing this Greninja to the board, will not have the 2nd Ogre Pawn. so would have to find the Sadas to get the 4 energies in play this turn to take a knockout. Either that, or if we found something like another switch card, that could also save the 2 energies on this Ogre Pawn here after we use Teal Dance. Checking the list as well for Lucas. And it looks like we play 2 of those switch cards, so only 1 more left in the deck here. As a potential pivot option here if we don't find the Sada's Vitality.
Was that another earthen
It
vessel?
was another earthen vessel. Looks like we have finally found our energy.
Finally found the energies, but this time we're missing all the Sadas.
Might be a couple turns too late here.
Now the question is, what do we do as the side of Lucas? Surely we should at least retreat into this Raging Bolt with the Bravery Charm. Or actually, there is no Bravery Charm on a Raging Bolt. My apologies. So maybe leaving this Ogre Pawn in the active at 260 could be alright.
You could also put the Grid
Palkia's
Ninja
already-
up, just as it being a single prize card, as well as you having the Night Stretcher in hand.
Yeah, the Palkia, with both players having a full bench, the Palkia already threatening knockout onto this Ogre Pawn, despite despite the Bravery Charm attached to it. So if we don't attack this turn as Lucas, definitely going to be looking to retreat into the Slitherwing here, or the Greninja. Could look to do something like retreat into the Slitherwing and just use a Stomp Off. Just mill the top card of the deck, see if you can find an important piece that Will might need to close out the game later. Who knows? But especially as Lucas not going to hate putting Will on to odd prizes here.
Lucas definitely getting kind of backed up into a corner right now. He's really going to be relying on trying to get that Sada up and going next turn.
We're going to have to find it for sure next turn. We can get away with it this turn, although we wouldn't really like to. We can give Will one prize turn. Especially with Will not having any more of those hoots on the bench, is not going to be able to just evolve straight into a Noctowl to find a boss's orders and take a 2 prize turn. Eyeing up potentially a Myriad Leaf Shower here.
Okay.
Are going to just attach there, retreat into the Slitherwing, just opting to get an extra energy on the board. Definitely a safer option than the random Stomp Off, which, as we can see now, would have hit the second Palkia V-Star, which could have been important. Yeah. Will just playing a 2/2 line of the Palkia V-Star here in the deck. And for recovery options, does have 3 Night Stretchers, so would be able to get it back decently easy with the Night Stretchers.
He did actually have the Night Stretcher in hand before he Iono'd here too, so it might have actually ended up being better that he did draw that Palkia for turn rather than maybe another impactful card such as like a boss's orders.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And just getting that extra energy on the board for Lucas is never going to be a bad thing. Now Lucas can threaten to take a knockout onto this Palkia V-Star without having to find a Sada's next turn. Just would need to attach to one of those Raging Bolts and that would be the 4 energies on board needed for the Palkia V-Star. Notably as well, if Will was able to bring up one of these Raging Bolts and remove one of these energies from play, would still be able to get there with the combination of Teal Dance and Attach for turn. So definitely the safe route here for Lucas than going for just a random Stop Off and trying to find a impactful card.
Now, it doesn't look like Will did get the opportunity to have any form of gusting that turn, so that odd prize card trade there could end up being very helpful for Lucas in the long run. All Lucas has to look for is a 2/2/2 line in order to be able to get himself back in this game. Now Will has to take an additional prize card in order to get back into this.
Yeah, Will essentially having to just take a turn off this turn. Still going to be happy to be up 3 to 6 prize cards. It would be a little bit different if it was 4 to 3 right now, and Lucas could force Will to take a turn off, but Lucas still going to have to string together 3 attacks and hope that Will cannot get enough knockouts here in those 3 turns.
Palkia Dusknoir does play Briar, doesn't it?
Some Palkia Dusknoir does typically, but the Palkia version does not. The Palkia Terapagos version does not usually. And it looks like Will is not playing it either. I remember in my matches against Will, getting upset at the end of the game at Alex Szymanski for not playing a Briar in his list. Because that was the exact list that I played, and I remember there was a turn where I would have been able to win, I believe it was game 4, if I only had a Briar in my deck. But Will not learning from that, or not thinking that they need to, and also not playing the Briar here today. Just opting for the more traditional, just normal Palkia Terapagos without that extra supporter.
That lost vacuum can be very helpful. I'm going to go make sure that they get that off the board, though.
Will's bench going down to 5 here. Just want to make sure that Stadium does in fact get knocked into the loss zone here to reflect it. Both players obviously adjusting the rest of the board in accordance with it, but could be confusing to look at why Will is discarding Pokemon if that Area 0 Underdepths isn't leaving play. Looks like Lucas opting to get rid of that boss's orders here, which is a pretty important part of the 2/2/2 prize map from Raging Bolt. If Will tries to do something like Lucas did and buy a turn by throwing something like that Fan Rotom in the active, that's one less out to gusting up a 2 prizer here from the side of Lucas.
Are we still digging for Asada right now?
It looks like we are still digging for Asadas at the moment. We have the Earthen Vessel. I believe we have a Fighting Energy in hand, so we at least have the knockout this turn, but obviously would like to set up and guarantee that Lucas will be able to take 2 in a row, and then hope Will cannot find the last prize card that they would need here. Assuming that this Palkia V-Star comes out and up and just knocks out a Raging Bolt. All that Will would need is one more Pokemon to bench here to push that Palkia up to 240 damage on Will's next turn.
Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to be going with an Iono play. Lucas can still potentially get that attack off, but it's going to be at a pretty hefty cost of leaving the Pokemon on the board with no energy overall.
Yeah, still needs to find that Fighting Energy to attach to the active as well here.
I believe we have an energy retrieval and a night stretcher.
I was going to say, I thought I saw that energy retrieval in the back of the hand. Going to opt for the night stretcher here to get that fighting here. And I imagine we're just going to attach it for turn, rather than doing something like the energy retrieval and getting an extra concealed cards in this turn. Opting not to use the Pokestop here this turn, and as far as I can tell, didn't use Flip the Script either here. Lucas just missing out on a few of his options to find some more consistency pieces here. We'll see if that comes back to bite him next turn if he struggles to get a... Yep, and I just heard from the table as well, Lucas just said, oh, I forgot to flip the script, just now noticing it as well himself.
We also could have further dug through the deck since we have Grass Energy as well as Fighting Energy in the discard pile. Instead of playing the Night Stretcher, we could have played the Energy Retrieval that was in hand to pull back one of those Grass Energies and conceal cards to draw 2 additional cards.
Well, I believe he did have a Grass Energy in hand as well already.
Oh, well, dang. We just missed a lot of drawing effects on this turn.
And that could end up coming to bite him in this following turn here, especially because he's looking for them Sadas. They've got to be coming at this point, but a couple turns too late can really, really kind of put the nail in the coffin for Raging Bolt.
Looks like Will's hand is not much either.
Yeah, his hand is not it for Will. Notably, though, the Kieran would be able to let this Palkia take the knockout. Currently, it's able to do 220, so using that Kieran for the damage boosting effect rather than the switching effect. Night Stretcher is also going to be enough to get up to 240. Can save that Kieran for a future turn here, potentially. And it's going to be good to establish that Hoot Hoot to potentially piece together the last pieces that Will needs next turn. if we can find a Noctowl. Yep, and that Rescue Stretcher is going to guarantee the Noctowl for next turn as well here.
Bit unfortunate that we're down another Area 0 here, but we do keep in mind that this deck does play quite a bit of those copies of that deck, or card.
Yeah, it does play typically 3 to 4 copies of it. It looks like Will today is playing 3. So has one more copy, with one of them being in the Lost Zone and one of them being discarded with that Pokestop here. And it will be important next turn. If Lucas can piece together the knockout this turn onto the Palkia, we'll need to find that Area 0 to take the last prize cards we need with Terapagos. Either that, or if we are able to find our second copy of Boss's Orders in the deck from Will, being able to use the Boss's Orders to just bring up that Greninja would already have that knockout with Terapagos ready to go. And one of those bosses being in the prizes as well, as we saw at the beginning of the game, means that Will might just have the boss in hand right now. Of course, Lucas seeing the Night Stretcher as well off of that Pokestop in Will's hand, just representing a guaranteed Noctowl next turn, means that that is also an out, even if we don't have that Boss's Orders in the hand, to just evolve into the Noctowl and grab the Boss's Orders that way. This Terapagos, even with this Palkia going down, would already be doing would only be doing 120 damage, so we'd have to find one more Pokemon as well to be able to get that 130 for the Greninja.
It looks like Lucas drew a Pokegear. He's probably going to be trying to dig for that Sadas that he still has not found yet. It makes me kind of wonder if more than a copy or maybe even 2 might even be in the prize cards this game.
Definitely elusive. These Sadas used 1 for only 1 energy here early in the game, and just not able to find any more after that. Going with the Teal Dance next. We have another
Palpad.
We have another Ogerpon down, so we can use another Teal Dance here. So we could get the knockout this turn, actually. We already have the knockout this turn without using Asadas. Of course, we would always prefer to start getting some of those extra energies on board to take one more knockout on the following turn.
Bit of a scary spot for Lucas, too, because it's a little unconventional to bench Pokemon out if he decides to go for this Terapagos over the Palkia. But more than likely, he's going to just go ahead and take this knockout on the Palkia.
And I believe Lucas's deck is thin enough that he can Palpad back the Iono and Asada, play the Pokegear for the Iono to put Will down to 1 card and potentially put him out of the range to take knockout next turn with no Palkias on board.
Would be very, very important for Lucas to do that, because as we know, and as Lucas should as well, knowing that the Night Stretcher is in Will's hand, we have to disrupt his hand, otherwise Will just win the game next turn.
Looks like that might be what he's lining up for.
Got those 3 pulled up to the front here. He's going to opt for the Iono and the Boss's Orders here, saying, I can get enough energy next turn. I only need 3 energies to knock out this Mew EX next turn, so if I can find this Boss's Orders, as well as get those 3 energies onto the board, I will take my last 2 prizes that way. I don't need to find Asada's Vitality next turn and go through the active if Will, for example, doesn't have the response knockout after this Iono to 1 card, and just opts to leave a single prizer in the active.
Now, do keep in mind, he does have access to that Mew, so he's going to be able to see 1 additional card, potentially more, if he's able to play any of those other cards in his hand.
So not going to be able to shut Will out of the game entirely here with this Iono, but certainly going to guarantee that Will has to find something to close the game, whereas otherwise Will just has the game in the hand.
Looks like that's going to be a Terapagos draw for turn, so he'll at least be able to bench that and get 1 more card out of his hand to get an additional draw from Mew.
Yep. At least going to be able to draw 2 cards for sure with this Mew here. We're going to have to see what the rest of the cards are, especially if we have a way to shuffle the deck here. Try to put something like that Night Stretcher back towards the top. Yep, we do have that Nest Ball. Oh, the nest ball for the Pheasantipity as well is going to be huge. That making its way out of the prize cards last turn. So we will be able to draw 6 cards this turn as well. Nest ball for Pheasantipity here. Bench that other... we cannot bench the Terapagos, given that we don't have the Area 0 in play.
An additional 5 cards is still really good.
Yes. Being able to draw 5 cards here is going to be huge. Especially when all we need is a boss's orders. Just a boss's orders or a way to get a Noctowl will do it for Will.
Further proof that Iono is simply a lie.
Iono is a lie. Roxanne is a lie. Iono is a lie. It never is enough. And there's the Night Stretcher here, that last card. And
also the
Noctowl itself. Gonna be able to, as long as there's that boss's orders right there. Eyeing up a Kieran play potentially here. I wonder if Will sees the easy line just to bring up that Radiant Greninja. Otherwise, we are doing 150 damage right now. So Area 0 under depths plus a Kieran. So the Kieran would bring us up to 180 damage. Benching that gets us to 210 and one more for 240. Yep. Taking the long way out here with the Kieran plus the Area 0 under depths, wanting to show off the card. Made it in the list for a reason today.
I will point out, it did look like after Lucas Pokegeared, it looked like 2 of those Sada's Vitalities were indeed in the prize cards.
Oh, man.
Definitely explains why it was so difficult for Lucas to find the Sadas. 2 of them in the prize cards, only 1 left in the deck after that turn 1 Sadas. But Lucas still was able to piece together attacks pretty reliably and make Will have it off of that Iono to 1. Able to mount a pretty good comeback with that Slitherwing stall here. But Will just got ahead a little bit too fast, going down to 3 prize cards before Lucas even took 1. Just became a little bit too much. Needed Will to be stalled out for 2 turns rather than just that 1 where we stalled it out with the Slitherwing.
Yeah, very unfortunate start for Lucas. Just not finding energies until turn 3.
With such an aggressive deck, not being able to take those early game attacks can really, really put you far behind with that deck. You're really looking to just jump out the gate and really start putting the pressure on your opponent.
Oh, yeah. Especially because Lucas had the opportunity to start taking those prize cards first. If we only had access to something like that Earthen Vessel or just an energy in hand, would have had the turn 1 knockout.
One more energy.
Just 1 more knockout would have had the turn 1 knockout. Especially after Will also took a few turns off by took the turn off by Prime Catcher bringing up just the Squawk ability for a turn.
Judge.
And using Judge there.
Yeah, the Judge stuck Lucas very well. Judge doing its job.
Alright, so it looks like Lucas is going to stay with the Raging Bolt here, and of course we back to this Archaludon here.
Should be a fairly good matchup for Raging Bolt. Being so big, Archaludon struggles to get through it, and it can directly one-shot the Archaludon's back.
This is why when a lot of these Japan League challenges that they do, with the Archaludon list, they were playing the Star Me, Star You line to be able to put that extra 2 damage counters on there. And then in the current format, that when they were doing it before us, I did see some people playing like Fury Fighting Belt just to be able to get that extra damage in as well.
Just get the extra in there. Also having access to something like the Dusk Noir, when I played the deck, made this matchup a lot better for Archaludon, and I actually thought it was somewhat favored when I was playing it, especially because just by using, even without the Dusk Noir, just using the Dusclops to put 5 damage counters on it, puts it in knockout range, but more importantly, it also can put them on an odd prize map if they don't start on an odd one. So it lets you have access to your counter catchers as gusts for the rest of the game. From my experience playing this matchup, it is a very, especially with Dusk Noir, it's a very, very close matchup. It is a very racy matchup where you're just trying to go 2-2-2, both players are. Ooh, the early Pokestop just kind of whiffing everything there for Will's side. Not even having a turn 1 Duraludon 2 is going to be pretty impactful.
Very unfortunately for Will, they had to lead a 2-prizer. This is just putting Lucas in prime position to take the first 2 prize cards.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm Archaludon, I'm wanting to go first, and I am wanting to lead a Duraludon above anything else.
I wonder if... Oh, well, it looks like he is going to get that access to the Raging Bolt as well this turn.
He needs to mill some energies here.
There we go. Hits 1 energy. That can be a target to grab. With the Night Stretcher, if we decide to go for Nest Ball for another Terapagos here. Or, sorry, not Terapagos. Ogerpon.
You always hate to see when your Pokestop fails you, but gives your opponent everything they need.
Absolutely.
Another real lack of energies here for Lucas.
Yeah. Lucas could once again just get stumped out here on turn 1. Has 1 fighting energy.
I see the switch cart. I see 2 Nest Balls and an Ultra Ball. But 2 energies.
2 energies is going to be the big kicker here. Should see that other Nest Ball come down. Yeah, now at this point, it's do you grab a concealed card? Do you grab a Greninja here to conceal cards, or do you grab another Ogerpon to get another energy? You might just have to conceal cards here and try to dig a little bit deeper in the deck.
I feel like digging is his main option at this point. He really wants to try and find that Sada's and maybe some access to some more energy here.
We do still have the Ultra Ball in hand as well, notably.
So 1 Earthen Vessel is all we need, really.
1 Earthen Vessel is all we need. We have access to that Ultra Ball too. If we can find the energies just raw without the vessel. We can also use that Ultra Ball too and still keep digging with Squawkabilly EX if we want. This is true.
A Lost Vacuum could work. Get rid of the Pokestop. Put our own Pokestop that's in hand into play.
Yep, get to use 2 of those Pokestops this turn to help dig. Oh, and there's a Lightning Energy. So we are able to find the Lightning Energy for attach for turn here. We also have the Prime Catcher, so going to be able to knock out this without. Gonna have the Prime Catcher, so gonna be able to knock out this Pheasantipity with only 3 energy here. We'll not have to find a second Roaring Moon or Raging Bolt, sorry, to attach an energy to for a 4 energy knockout onto that Dialga.
Yeah, they're both ancient Pokemon that one-shot everything.
They're both ancient. They came from the same set. They both can one-shot this Pheasantipity pretty easily.
Both also very good Pokemon in VG.
Both very playable with VG. Looks like we have a little bit of a judge call. We're questioning whether or not Lucas drew cards with the Professor Sada's Vitality. Let me try to find... So they're asking for a judge call, so I'm going to head over there. At the moment, I'm also going to look up on the VOD and see if we can find a replay to see if, in fact, no cards were drawn with the Sadas. But I will be right back.
Of course, right when it happened is when the note was passed off.
Oh, shit.
I see he's got to go around.
Concealed cards.
Does not look like those cards were drawn for turn from the Sada's Vitality.
I'm trying to make sure if he draws them before the Ultra Ball, but I do not believe he does. No, the Ultra Ball was then played. Okay.
And if I'm correct, Emery, that is a mandatory draw, correct?
It is a mandatory draw.
That could be huge for Will in this matchup.
Yeah, going down 2 prizes, but being issued potentially a 2 prize penalty off of this would essentially just nullify this attack here.
And I do know that yesterday when they did play, I think they both decided that because of it being such a higher tiered event that we've been kind of playing, that they were probably going to go ahead and rule this as a potential double prize loss. Looks like they're just discussing right now. Looks like Tanner went ahead and had him draw 3 more cards.
So yeah, I believe we just returned the Squawkabilly to the deck, reshuffled up, and then drew those cards from Professor Sada.
Definitely have to wait and see what Tanner went ahead and ruled with this.
And we're back.
Yeah. Senor Judge, what was the ruling?
So, considering that the deck was not in a particular order, no Ionos had been played, the deck was sufficiently randomized at the time. It was a completely reversible game state. We checked the replay. Lucas did not draw off of the Sadas, so we reverted the game state to before the Ultra Ball, re-randomized the deck in the same way that it was before the Ultra Ball. And then since Lucas did not get any extra knowledge from the Ultra Ball, given that we've already used a Nest Ball and the drawing 3 cards from Professor Sada's Vitality is not an optional effect, so Lucas did not get information by seeing I have a Squawkabilly in my deck before choosing whether or not to draw the 3 cards. We reverted it, issued a warning for the gameplay error, and moved on. So the next warning would escalate into a DPL, but given that there was no extra information gained and it was a completely reversible board state, Lucas got a warning and proceeded with the Professor Sada's Vitality draws here. Importantly, as we expected, the knockout onto the Fezandipity coming through here. Going to be a little bit harder if Lucas needs to go through a Dialga V-Star next turn. Would have to find a way to get 4 energy in play, whether that's finding a second Teal Mask Ogerpon or a second Raging Bolt to attach 2 energies with a Sadas too.
Yeah, Will's hand does not look very good from what I saw. Just another V-Star, another EX, I believe, and a Boss's Orders. Plus these energies.
Plus those energies now, yeah. Not going to quite be what we're
research.
looking for.
Okay. I missed the research.
So we at least have the research here. Would have much preferred to be going second with that hand, I imagine, from Will's side. But at least is going to be able to do a little bit of a poke damage onto this Raging Bolt. And again, like you said, Lucas is still going to have not an easy task of getting 4 energies into play on this next turn.
There we go.
He's definitely going to be looking for an opportunity to get another Teal Mask Ogerpon on board, and he's still got to look for Sadas and an attachment for turn if he wants to get that 4 energy on the board this turn.
Exactly. Going to have to string together a few pieces, and especially with Will not taking a knockout, and Lucas benching that Fezandipity early here, that's just going to be an extra piece on the board that's not helping him take knockouts yet. So if Lucas isn't able to find a knockout onto this Dialga V-Star, Will can threaten a Star Chronos on the next turn even.
And even better if he gets a boss with a Star Chronos, because that's going to allow him to potentially take 4 cards.
Going for the counter catcher on the Fezandipity here. Trying to stick Lucas, make Lucas find the second switch card. I forgot, the Fezandipity was led by Lucas. It was not a voluntary benching. That is my mistake. But Will bringing it right back up to the active here, saying you used 1 switch card on it. You're going to have to use another if you want to take a swing with this Raging Bolt next turn. Either that or something like we used the Prime Catcher on the last turn, so we would still have access to 2 of the switch cards for Lucas.
Did Will opt to play any jamming towers in his list today?
I believe they just chose the Pokestops.
I believe they're on double Pokestops as well here.
This is an instance where having the Relicanth in the list could have been very useful, because I believe we have at least 1 to 2 energies in the discard pile, and using Relicanth we could have used Dialga V's attack, Metal Coating, which allows us to accelerate 2 metal from the discard pile to itself. That way to further push for the Star Chronos play.
Would have been able to threaten the Star Chronos without even evolving into an Archaladon next turn.
Yeah.
Would simply need an attach for turn, yeah.
Yeah. Especially if this Pheasantipity were to get stuck here.
As we know, Lucas has that switch card in the hand still, opting to use the Prime Catcher last turn rather than the switch card. So we'll be able to move this Pheasantipity, but still needs to find a Sadas as well as either a second Raging Bolt to attach an energy from the Sadas, or a second Teal Mask and a second Grass energy if we want to get the 4 energies into play this turn to deal with this Dialga V-Star that's in the active.
We do see the Professor Sadas being found off that Pokey gear there. I'm not sure as to what else is in the hand.
So we have that Raging Bolt.
Bolt. I thought it was hand for a second. So that's a lot of energy.
That would have been a lot of energy stuck in the hand there. So we are going to get the 2 energies attached here with the Sadas. So all we're going to be looking for now is a fighting energy, and first card off of the Sadas is a energy retrieval. Third one is the fighting itself here. So definitely guaranteed with that switch card coming through. Yep.
It looks like Will knows their fate, scooping it up.
Yeah, Will knows their fate, just going on to game 5 here. 2 bad starts with the Archaladon deck for Will. Archaladon not being their biggest fan here today, it appears.
Well, on the bright side, we kind of knew when this match started that this was not going to be a favored matchup for Archaladon 2. So, going into this third matchup against Palkia, I do think that Will could be a little bit favored as long as he is able to, 1, keep those Area Zeros off the board as much as possible, and 2, just get a little bit of a better start to start getting aggressive.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This Palkia matchup going to be a little bit better, especially those Terapagoses being a better range for that Archaladon to hit.
Unfortunately, you're not able to get a one-shot off of its normal attack with Archaladon, with it being 230 HP on the Terapagos. However, it being at 300 HP is a little bit difficult for this Palkia deck to be able to consistently hit without having access to that Area Zero.
We're playing 2 copies of Pokestop in their deck here.
This is for all the marbles, too.
Here down to game 5 with Palkia or Chaladon. This is a matchup.
Will and Lucas taking us the distance here. 5 games yesterday and another 5 today.
Oh, and it does not look like either one
Double
of them
one.
had a basic.
I think these are actually our first mulligans of the entire Grand Finals. The first set of games or the second one. I don't remember a single mulligan yesterday.
I don't remember there being one either.
History is being made.
Brand new situation we're running into today.
You have to hope that with this matchup right now, both players are going to get the most optimal hands so we can see the most Pokemon play for this last game.
Absolutely. Don't want to see someone just bricking this last game here. Want to see some fun back and forth. I want to see a Star Chronos as well, because I don't know if we saw Star Chronos yesterday.
I believe it got shut out most of the game when they attempted to try and get that set up.
Just kept bullying those Duraludons. I remember not being able to, either not having enough Duraludons down or not having the Dialga V down. So I want to see our first Star Chronos of the Grand Finals here.
This finals will be a battle of time and space. Origin Form Palkia V-Star and the Origin Form Dialga V-Star, both being featured.
When Astro Radiance came out, I definitely did not imagine that 3 years later, one of the last tournaments before they rotated out, we'd see them facing off against each other in the last game of a Grand Finals here. Certainly not in this iteration,
so
not in these versions.
I have to ask you guys, are you more of a Dialga fan or more of a Palkia fan?
I played Diamond when I was a kid. That was the one that I got. So I am more of a Dialga fan inherently. Even though in the trading card game, I like Palkia a lot more. It was one of the first decks that I started playing. I played a lot of Palkia back in the Shady Dealings and Teleon iteration of the deck.
I, being a little bit lucky because of my parents not being together, I got to enjoy both games as a kid. Christmas was always a bit more fun because I got twice the amount of presents. But I can probably say without a doubt I am more of a Palkia enjoyer simply because one of my favorite types in the Pokemon game is water. Me being a big Wailord fan, Palkia basically being a giant space whale, I'm okay with that.
It works out.
Well, I'd like to say that I prefer Dialga simply because I like taking extra turns. I was a very big fan of Rapid Strike Medicham V. And very broken card, who I also know Will is also a huge fan of. We both played Rapid Strike during that era quite a bit.
I remember that deck running rampant. The Medicham taking those extra turns so easily was definitely annoying, especially for a Lost Zone player. Definitely annoying for a Lost Zone player.
One thing both of these guys also pointed out to me is if you play Dialga V-Star in a normal tournament, when it goes into time, if you are able to get that Star Chronos off, you are essentially taking a turn away from your opponent. However, this game there is no time limit, so we won't be seeing anything in regards to that. However, still, taking extra turns is always going to be good, no matter what game you play.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I know when I played the deck to San Antonio, it came up many times. I was kind of surprised to find that our Chaladon went pretty long into my rounds a lot of the time, just because of how complex some of the turns can be, especially playing the Duskmoor line. A lot of those games can be really close and contentious, so you play out all three games. It went to time quite a bit in San Antonio, and being able to Star Chronos to essentially have 3 of the 4 turns in time definitely got me a few games, that's for sure.
Was that what happened in your day one for the final round? Was that what happened to help you get the game on that one?
It is, yes, it is. It's exactly what happened. I played against Gardevoir in round 9, and I remember Emmett was watching, and he had kind of, at one point he looked over, and I just shook my head because I thought I was in such a bad board state against the Gardevoir that I thought I had no chance, but I still was able to find some pretty cool lines. I thought they were really, really exciting. I didn't actually get to take 3 turns in time that game, but the Star Chronos did close the game for me. So I took turn 1 in time and turn 3, and I was able to end off my turn 3 by playing down my entire hand, about like a 10-card combo that ended with me using a Nest Ball to grab Lumineon and put Lumineon on my bench, to the confusion of both the judges watching and my opponent, to then use Scoop Up Cyclone to re-bench Lumineon, to grab Boss's Orders from my deck, to go Star Chronos, and then on turn 4 of time, use the Boss's Orders for the game. And luckily enough, my opponent upheld his end of the gentleman's agreement, and so I was able to make it into day 2 that way.
Will is not getting very lucky with these Pokestops, these matches. Hitting an Archelodon, a Pheasantipity, and an Energy.
We'll say their board setup is much better than the previous game.
Definitely
Yes.
much better.
So it's always you're a happy world. You're a happy bridge. You're in a happy world when you can get 3 of those Duraludons on the bench turn 1.
3 Duraludons and 2 Dialgas up.
2 Dialgas, and getting to use the metal coating on that Dialga too, just threatening to have a Star Chronos next turn. Would need a little bit of work still to discard 2 more metal energies and evolve into an Archelodon, but
We might get to see what you want, though. We might get to see that Star Chronos this game.
I'm hoping so. One notable difference between Lucas's list and Will's list is Will did not play the Bibarel, but Lucas is playing the Bibarel here, so that could come in handy if Will starts to use some disruption in the later game to try to stick Lucas. Will opted for the Mew EX for that consistency, whereas Lucas will have the Bibarel to draw back up.
I think I am definitely more of a Bibarel fan in this deck list.
That Pokestop doing a lot more work for Lucas right now than it is for Will. And then immediately bumping it with the Area 0 underdepths as well.
Well, we do know that Will does have that other Pokestop in hand. So whatever Lucas decides to commit with this Area 0, he is going to have to make some choices on Will's turn, because I'm assuming he'll probably go ahead and just put that Pokestop out immediately.
Lucas still potentially having a pretty awkward turn here, depending on what the rest of this turn looks like, especially what these Greninja draws look like.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we can move the Terapagos to even get any sort of meaningful damage through.
Yeah, to get an attack here with the Terapagos, we might have to go for something like a Star Portal onto Greninja, and then see if we can find a Noctowl, grabbing energy switch to put that second energy onto the Terapagos.
Well, it did look like he had 2 in hand. I believe, wasn't there a Glass Trumpet in his hand?
There is a Glass Trumpet in hand.
But unfortunately, that Terapagos is on the active side.
Yeah, so would still need to find the Noctowl here just the energy switch.
I believe he has a Noctowl in the back of the hand.
So we have the Noctowl. I'm checking to see if we even play the energy switch in this list. Yep, we are playing 1 energy switch in Lucas's list.
He does have a
pretty
Noctowl,
standard.
So we could maybe see, I'm not sure how many energies in the discard pile, but we could just see V-Star and Prime Catcher.
Looks like he's eyeing up an Irida.
And I don't think he's played Supporter, right? So
No, not yet.
Okay, so
could grab that.
Palkia
Grab the
V-Star.
Irida to grab the Prime Catcher and the Palkia V-Star, and then use the other one to grab anything else. Importantly, though, would we want to use the Prime Catcher this time?
I don't think so. I'd rather just see a switch if we have it. Get to the front with the Palkia potentially, and just knock out this Dialga with 2 energy on it.
I would rather save it too, because I feel like looking at what we have here, he isn't going to be able to threaten a KO even if he Star Chronoses unless he is able to do something like Boss's Orders. But with that Irida being played, we're going to see that Palkia V-Star. The only thing he'll be able to take a knockout on now is a single prize Pokemon.
We can still take a knockout onto the Dialga V here with the Palkia V-Star.
Oh, I was more for Will's follow-up.
For
turn.
Will's follow-up,
yes,
of course,
yes.
sure. Yeah, especially with that evolution coming through.
Looks like he is grabbing the Prime Catcher.
Will would need to do something like that Star Chronos play if we wanted to take 2 prizes on this next turn. Yeah, notably Will not playing any damage modifications like we've kind of mentioned before, not playing the Starmie line, not playing any Dusknoirs, no Vitality Band, no nothing like a Kieran in this list here, just to amp the damage up for these one-shots.
Lucas accidentally attempting to grab a second Palkia V-Star when he was resolving his Irida there. It's always important to make sure that when you play a card that searches cards, you want to make sure that you put that stuff down and figure out exactly what you want before you go ahead and do things like evolving your Pokemon. That's just to make sure that your sequencing stays correct and don't make any mistakes.
Absolutely. Right now, this Palkia V-Star is doing almost its max damage here. Representing, 300 damage right now? 320?
4 plus 1, is that 8? 12? Yeah, 300 right now.
300 exactly right now.
Oh, we did have the switch in hand. Okay.
Oh, that makes it even easier.
That makes a lot more sense. I
Now-
thought we were just taking a passive turn, potentially doing nothing.
I will say this does give Will the opportunity to be able to get that Boss's Order Star Chronos 2 prize attack off with an additional turn. So this could be an opportunity for Will to maybe come back into this and really push for some major momentum forward here. It really kind of, I think, just comes down to if Will decides he wants to leave that Pokestop in his hand for the turn. But if he has access to Boss's Orders and a Star Chronos, I would probably save that for your additional turn to then lower his bench size even more.
So they're just...
It sounds like they're confused about something, about whether or not they've shuffled their deck yet.
After the Irida, I'm guessing, which I did see
It would be
there
after
was
the
a
Ultra
shuffle.
Ball.
There was indeed a shuffle.
Because he played Irida, then he played Ultra Ball after that.
Yep. They want us to verify if there was a shuffle. I believe I remember.
Well, there hasn't been any draw or anything.
Yeah,
since
there
then,
hasn't
right?
been any draw, and there's no reason to draw. So at the worst case, we can simply shuffle now.
After the Ultra Ball, he does shuffle his
Yeah,
deck.
so the deck is randomized.
I will go let them know.
Yep. We're sending Alex in to relay the message that the deck is shuffled. They are all good. Even if it was not, it is not in a particular order at the moment, so could just shuffle and be fine. Believe it's, yeah. Yep. Or shuffle, yeah, looking for the barrels draw. Yep, looking to do the barrel draw here before ending the turn with a knockout.
It's better that's caught before the Industrious Incisor draws.
Rather than after, for sure. Will is playing one copy of Countercatcher. Notably, Lucas did not play any yesterday, so that could make it a little bit easier as well for Will to get off this Star Chronos play and go for a full price turn. Just needing Countercatcher this turn and can play a draw supporter of some kind, or maybe a Turo to reset an Archaladon if we can only find one of them. And still get the Star Chronos play, take 2 prize cards onto that bench Palkia V, and then look to attach a 6th energy to the Dialga to take a one-shot onto either the Palkia V-Star or the Tropicos.
Yeah.
Now, if I am Lucas in this situation, I am kind of hoping that Will might either whiff this turn or be unable to take out that Palkia V. So if I see any opportunity to be able to get that off the board, I am going to probably take that with the swiftness.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like the hand's pretty awkward from Will, having to go with the Thornton here into Pheasantipity to just continue the turn. Has those energies in hand that they need to try to find the attacks this turn, but notably, it looks like they're missing evolutions. I see one Archaladon in the hand there. We have one Night Stretcher as well.
And there's plenty of energy in hand as well.
So we at least have an attack this turn. It's just, can we push for something a little more? Potentially maybe thinking about going and getting a Greninja here. Ultra Balling away. 3rd energy and something else from the hand, using concealed cards to get 4 in the discard pile. Which would set us up to use that double Archaladon Evolve to set up the Star Chronos. But it looks like we're just going straight into an Assemble Alloy onto the active here. Little bit too much to reach for the Star Chronos this turn. So just going to be going Metal Defender for 220.
This is going to be a big turn for Lucas to be able to really push himself ahead in this game.
Absolutely. I'm looking at that Kieran in Lucas's deck list here. Gonna come in handy. Seeing that Will did not bench an extra Pokemon, even though they did not bump the Area 0. Lucas will not be able to get to 300 without some type of damage modification like that Kieran.
Which would make this poke a lot more, a lot better for them, because it could set up for a Star Chronos to be a lot more successful without needing gust effects, essentially.
Absolutely, especially if Will has something like the Professor Sturo scenario in hand here.
Which he does.
Going to be able to reset this Archaladon that gets poked, as we know has one more metal energy in hand too, so would not need any other pieces to guarantee that we get another knockout this turn. Would need to find a Thornton play again if we wanted to get a Star Chronos. Kind of the downside of keeping our bench small enough that we don't die to this Palkia V-Star here. One of those trade-offs, but can still just be an annoying walling deck and look to close with something like that Star Chronos. Thinking about something like a Turo this turn into rebenching those Duraludons and looking to just end the game on the next turn. If Lucas doesn't go down to 2 prize cards this turn, Lucas won't be threatening to win, so will have that time to look for the Star Chronos for game here and for set.
It's kind of looking like Lucas does not have the capability to be able to get to that Kieran.
Yeah, it's not eyeing the Kieran, but if I can tell, it's a boss's order.
It is a boss's order.
So is going to be able to eye down probably that Pheasantipity if I had to guess here.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to take the 2 prizes this turn and play for the Kieran next turn.
This is going to be a very, very hard game for Will to be able to come back from here. He does have that Dialga V on the bench here. He's going to really be looking to try and get that thing evolved to make it a bit harder for Lucas to be able to really just take a one-shot knockout on that.
Absolutely. Also want to manage your bench space appropriately so this Palkia V-Star doesn't do as much damage.
Well, at this point, I definitely think Will, if he hasn't gotten rid of that Pokestop in hand, is probably going to want to go ahead and play that now.
I would love to see, as much as we would love something like that Turo, if we could Turo up that Dialga V-Star, then Lucas would definitely not be able to one-shot the Archaludon. Turo up that Dialga V-Star, the Palkia would be maxing out at 240 damage at that point, so even a Kieran would not get it to do enough damage to one-shot the Archaludon. So could look to stall a turn that way, but unless we can bench a bunch of these little Duraludons, would still not be threatening that 4-prize turn to close. So we'll just have to resort to a walling strategy for a few turns, trying to find another Turo on the following turn, or something like the Scoop Up Cyclone.
Ooh, the Lost Vacuum is a great find off of that Flip the Script.
Amazing find. Going to be able to bump that Area 0 Underdepths without giving Lucas access to more tools to potentially close the game himself.
I believe they're potentially just going to set up for a Dialga V Metal Blast knockout the active. They do have an Ultra Ball in hand.
Yeah, especially losing all these Pokemon, it's going to be hard for a Palkia V-Star to get reestablished with enough damage to knock out the Dialga V-Star. Notably, though, rebenching that Pheasantipity could come back to bite Will. It's going to be a lot easier target for this Palkia if we do have that Prime Catcher on the side of Lucas. Or we already used the Prime Catcher, correct? Yes. Already used the Prime Catcher earlier, so would have to find this last copy of Boss's Orders off of something like evolving into a Noctowl here.
It is definitely nice to draw 3 cards, but it is always a bit scary when you get put in a position where you need those 3 cards, but you're leaving a 2-prize liability on board.
Mm-hmm. Notably, Lucas does play Silene as well, so could look, if we do find the Silene, that could be a potential out alongside the barrel draws to put that Prime Catcher right back on top of the deck and grab it immediately, looking for game on that Pheasantipity.
Yeah. Will really needs a hand disruption here, but just did not find one.
Yeah. Even with the Pheasantipity draws, not able to get an Iono. Has the Ultra Ball. I'm starting to wonder if we don't have access to the Greninja here. Could draw extra cards with Greninja, but I have to assume it's either in the prize cards or it got milled with the Pokestop at some point.
Choosing to Turo up that Pheasantipity does get one of the 2 prizers off the board that's a bit easier to hit and gives them access as some fodder to be able to put that Dialga V-Star up. It's going to make it a little bit harder for Lucas to be able to take that knockout, and will...
Oh, there was...
Going to use the Assemble Alloy to get the attachments onto this Dialga V-Star here right away. So we are going to be able to go Metal Blast for knockout here and see if Lucas can find a way to get that close. Going to be a lot harder now with that Pheasantipity not in play. Notably, though, the Dialga at 280 with 2 benched Pokemon here.
And no Area 0 in play.
And no Area 0 in play here. It's going to be
right now,
pretty well protected.
Yeah.
So we need a total of 5 more in order to be able to take a knockout with the Palkia V-Star.
We can only get 4 on our end.
If we can go 4 and then use something like that Kieran, we would potentially be able to get across the line there.
The top deck of the Noctowl.
The Noctowl top deck might just be enough to get us there.
I don't know what the rest of the hand looks like.
A Night Stretcher by itself would get us the Palkia V-Star from the discard pile. Otherwise, if we have an Ultra Ball in the hand here, we could use that. But notably, if we want to go for that Kieran play, we'd have to fill our bench without using something like an Irida to go grab out that evolution.
Well, it does look like he does have a Buddy Poffin. I don't know how many of these small basic Pokemon he has left in the deck.
So it looks like we're going to start with a Nest Ball for the Fez here. It's going to be able to draw some extra card. That deck is getting pretty thin for Lucas, too. So might be able to piece it together here. As long as we have access to all the pieces still. We haven't accidentally milled any with a Pokestop or prized them or lost them earlier with like an Ultra Ball.
How many Night Stretchers does this deck typically play?
It's about 3. I know Will was playing 3 in their list, and it looks like Lucas is playing 3 as well.
And if I remember correctly, Lucas does have an Ultra Ball in hand, so he can just go grab the other Palkia V-Star from the deck with that.
Gonna be able to grab the Palkia V-Star with that. Also thin down for some barrel draws as well. Get rid of some of those dead cards in the hand. Try to replace them with usable pieces here for piecing together this final Kieran turn.
Yeah, which also does mean if we find an Area 0, the Night Stretchers can just be used to recover basic Pokemon that we had to discard on the previous turn after losing our Area 0.
Exactly. Not many of those little Pokemon left in the deck here for Lucas to grab with something like that Buddy Poffin. Gonna have to go to the discard pile with that stretcher if we want to. If we want to take the big knockout. Looks like instead we're going to go into a Thornton line here.
Very interesting play.
We have the Noctowl. Could have tried to piece something else together, but notably wanting to assumably set up damage onto... Going with both Archaludons here, not the active Dialga here. And just saying, you're at 4 prize cards. I don't think that you can get a Star Chronos off this turn, so I'm okay to just sit back, start prepping up some damage, and just look for a boss attached to a Terapagos for game here to take out the Duraludons. Duraludon's going down to 210 now. Would still mean that the Terapagoses need 7 Pokemon on the bench. Oh,
Scoop up
super
Cyclone.
important.
That was the top deck for the turn. If we had a little top deck alert, we'd put that on the screen.
Super
TPCI
clutch.
sponsor us, please. The counter catch onto the Hoo is also a very clutch play, identified by Will.
Now, if only Will had a judge here, or an
Iono,
Iono.
or literally any disruption.
Some way to disrupt the massive hand that Lucas is sitting on. Taking a 1 prize knockout is going to be a little bit of taking a turn off here for Will, but notably, it makes it that much harder for Lucas to take the game this turn.
Especially after seeing that Thornton, there's a lot less of an opportunity for Lucas to be able to kind of come back in by doing some cheeky Thornton plays.
Having that scoop up Cyclone 2 to reset one of those Archaludons here, to be able to threaten for Star Chronos for game next turn as well, no matter what Lucas promotes. The only way that Lucas would be able to get around a Star Chronos for game would be by promoting one of the single prizers here in Greninja or Barrel, and then if Will does get the Star Chronos off, just promoting the other one here and hoping that Will doesn't have that boss's orders.
If Will's able to survive this turn, a boss's orders would indubitably seal the deal.
We would still have to get some energies in the discard pile. Notably, Will doesn't have any metal energy in the discard pile right now. With the Scoop Up Cyclone, scooped up the one that didn't have energy attached to it.
Oh, Kieran is prized. So that was never an option.
Never going to be a line for Lucas.
Okay,
it's
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense because it's hard to imagine that Lucas didn't have the resources to get there last turn if the Kieran was in the deck because of the fact that we had that Noctowl on board. So definitely just some pretty unlucky prizes here for Lucas. I still probably would have preferred just swinging on the active though, either with just a Palkia V or a V-Star.
Now, does Lucas have access to any more energy in the deck, or is it at this point that he's looking for energy out of the discard pile?
I am not sure. He plays 7 in the deck there. We'll get to see here as he fans through. I think he is out, though, in the deck, yeah. All of the energies at this point are in the discard pile.
That could end up being a bit detrimental to him as well.
Yeah, we have the 2 of those that are on the Tropicos right now on the board, as well as the 3 that we lost earlier from the Palkia.
And there's 1 on the Radiant Greninja.
Yep, that's sealing up that last one there, yeah.
Yeah, swinging with the Palkia may have just been better.
Yeah, even obviously, as we know, and it would have played out, Will had the Scoop Up Cyclone, so would have been able to reset some of that damage. But still, especially if we could have evolved into the Palkia V-Star, would not have been in danger of it getting knocked out immediately on the on Will's following turn. But we could have at least threatened to close the game by just 2-shotting and getting through one of these big 2 prizers in 2 turns.
Well, and especially punching the Dialga and then forcing the Scoop Up Cyclone onto the Dialga would have made the Star Chronos play nigh impossible at that point.
Absolutely.
Essentially just sealing the game, I think.
Absolutely. Would have just taken so much more work at that point. If the Dialga had to get Scoop Up Cyclone, would have lost 2 of those energies attached from a previous Archaludon, had no little Duraludons in play, would have been looking to get 2 more down in play if we wanted to find the Star Chronos turn.
I think what Will might be really looking for at this point is just either like an Ultra Ball. Does he play Luminion?
Yes. Yep. Will does play the Luminion. So the Luminion
because they Scoop Up
would help
Cyclone.
us.
So an Ultra Ball for a Luminion would be huge here because he could discard those 2 energy, grab the Luminion for boss's orders, evolve into Archaludon, put those 2 energies on, Star Chronos, and then he is just 1 energy away from guaranteeing a win here.
The scariest part would mainly just be if Will has the energy in hand. When we saw that
the Ultra Ball would.
Because since Will Scoop Up Cyclone, the Archaludon that had no energies on it was not able to put energies in hand. If they had picked up the other Archaludon, would have been able to put 3 energies in hand that we could have then Ultra Balled away. And I know Will's been kind of just top decking a lot of these turns, so
it's definitely a bit unfortunate that he 3 of his metal energies are underneath that Archaludon right now.
Locked on that Archaludon that hasn't been able to manually retreat and get those off of it for a while here. Lucas going pretty thin on his deck as well. If I counted correctly, has only about 4 or 5 cards left in the deck.
I think it's actually less than that because when he was counting, it looked like he almost barely had enough to do a research.
Yeah. Lucas saying at the table that he is 1 card away from a win. I'm curious what the line is that he's looking at. He has the Area 0 in play, so 2-10 would have been enough. Has already used the research, so would need some other form of Gust. Has the boss's orders in hand, so would be able to guarantee it next turn if we could get enough Pokemon by taking 2 prize cards onto that benched Archaludon. But without a way to gust up this Archaludon with an item, I don't believe we have it this turn. Could have it next turn though.
Oh wait.
1 card left in deck.
Oh, the Prime Catcher.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
the
he
Prime
does.
card not being used.
No, it was a switch on the first turn.
I remember we had the switching effect. I couldn't remember if we used the Prime Catcher to bring up.
I think we were debating the
yes.
Prime Catcher, but ended up going with the switch.
Yep. So has access to that Prime Catcher. Does not have the retreat though after the Prime Catcher. Notably, has attached for turn onto the Terapagos. So would need another way to do it. If we had attached for turn to the bench Terapagos.
We actually have not attached for turn. This was from
was
Trumpet.
that from the E-Switch?
The Trumpet and then E-Switch from
of
there.
Okay.
Prime Catcher.
So
Prime
bring
Catcher for the
that
Archaludon.
But I think we're missing not enough Pokemon.
We need 7 Pokemon on the bench. We can do 150 right now.
I think that's actually going to potentially give Will the chance to come back here.
Especially, we know that Will has the evolution in hand, and this is going to give Will the chance to manually retreat and get those energies into the discard pile. Does still need to find at least one gust this turn, though. Notably, the Star Chronos only doing 220 would not knock out this Terapagos.
There's the fish.
So we have the
There's
Luminion
the
for the
fish.
boss's orders. Are we going to get to see the Star Chronos?
Oh my gosh, this is
for
a
the
crazy turn here.
Turo, we could also Turo.
You need the boss.
We need to take 2 prizes this turn onto the Fez.
Do they have the...
we can hear from the table. We're getting a little bit too loud. Will saying, "Yeah, I do need the boss." Oopsie. I wonder if that the door to the shop is open. So we don't have 3 doors of protection between us and the players at the moment.
Dude, do they not just have it? What am I missing?
We should just have it. No.
Professor's Turo. The energy gets discarded off of Turo.
But we still
manually
need...
retreated.
I know, but still, the energy gets discarded onto hand.
But the problem is we don't one-shot this Terapagos with...
Don't worry, but those energies, they're there. They need to be in the discard
Yes, so
pile.
that still gets our energies in the discard pile, yes. As long as those get tracked properly off of that.
Are we just going to
I
go
wonder,
for...
do we have an iron bundle? Because an iron bundle would do it too if we have a gust next
it's right
turn.
there, I believe.
So we can play the iron bundle. Oh, but if we iron bundle, Lucas just brings up the other Terapagos.
Yeah,
We just
I
switch
wonder
the
if
two.
we're maybe just going for a Metal Blast knockout here
A metal
with
blast
Disruption and pray that there's no gust off of Lucas's side of the table.
Well, we do know
Would
that there
need
is
one-
a boss in hand in Lucas's
But
hand.
he does have a... Oh, he just played Turo.
Mhm. Just played Turo, has the fish in play now. So Lucas would be able to get the game if he can gust up the fish and bench 2 more Pokemon. That would be what he needs.
This might
So we have the vessel.
This might have been a major.
I think
Amazing.
we
I
had the
think-
line.
I
I think
think
Will
Will
had the
had
line
game.
because we had enough energy to be able to get up to the
5.
280
Because
knockout
we had the vessel
next
in
turn.
hand.
Yeah, so we could have gotten to 280 damage with. Lucas saying that he's gonna lose by deck out here.
Well, can he not take a knockout?
Looks like I did not have enough Pokemon. He did not have enough access to enough Pokemon. Had the boss's orders.
So off
but
of the
could
Turo?
not.
Oh my.
As soon as the Turo came down,
It looks like...
could not get enough Pokemon to knock out the Luminion. Once again, the Kieran being prized coming into play. Oh my gosh.
Well, it looks like sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
I would almost always rather be lucky than good. Wow. They're talking about the game at the table now. Yeah, the Kieran. Yep, just talking about that Kieran.
And there it is.
Sealed the deal. Amazing,
Wow.
amazing
What a
best of
game.
5.
What a final game.
Yeah, that final game looked
I thought Lucas
really
had
rough
it.
for Will. I thought Lucas had it. Lucas was off to the races. That Thornton into Greninja play ended up honestly being I think the major drawback. Not just trying to go into something like a knockout with the Palkia V-Star.
There's a sign out there that says.
Oh, they're coming a long way around to find us here.
Yeah.
But yeah, insanely fun last game here. Would have been able to find the Star Chronos that turn to go down to 1 prize card as well for Will. Even with the Turo being played there.
Here come our competitors now.
Here come our competitors. Welcome in. Thank you both so much for 10 full games here in the Grand Finals.
Out of the wire.
I don't want to go to the challenge tonight.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
I
Amazing game.
flubbed super hard that last game.
What was your thoughts when you were going for the Greninja play?
So,
I
was-
want to know that too.
yeah, so what I was thinking of doing was, originally I was going to try and prime catcher up the Archaeodon with no energy and then do it. Just forgot to go find the prime catcher.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I wanted to put him in a spot where, even if he Turos, okay, I can go after the other Archaeodon, knock it out with the Terapagos. Completely forgot to
Thank
do
you.
that.
That's where we're
This is
Yeah, and then for that very last turn I had, I needed to.
I could hear that I needed boss. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely missequenced with my energy switch because I needed to move it to my benched one, not the active.
Yeah, yep, we noticed that as well. We were like,
as soon as I realized I did it, I was like, oh, I've lost. Like, if he has Turo, I lose.
We were curious as well if you had enough, if you would have access to get the rest of the Pokemon, because you would have had it.
I
with
had
Prime Catcher.
The Night Stretcher would have got me.
Night
Stretcher would have got me a 6th for Luminion.
We figured you would have the 6. It was like whether or not you could find the 7th. Yeah.
7th was impossible at that point.
Gotcha. So it's just gonna be bring up that one, smack it, and
Did you have
I appreciate knowing that I didn't suboptimal last turn play.
What also really sucked was I wanted to a lot earlier than that knock out from my last 2 prizes with a Kieran Palkia.
Mm-hmm.
Kieran was prized, so
we didn't notice that it was prized. We were talking about it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think if in the future, we need to have a judge show the prizes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was like, dude, what is he doing?
I really thought I took out Vitality Band last night.
Prizes never could.
I took it out.
Okay, well.
Except
I didn't panic
as well. I was curious
like,
about that last turn.
What are you doing? And then you went heavy ball.
What was your idea? What was your line with the Luminion going for Turo instead of?
I didn't have a good line. I didn't have a good line. I didn't. This is literally my second day playing Bridge.
This became a lot harder.
And it was actually between Bridge and Raging Bolt today. I kind of wish I picked Raging Bolt, but because I'm more comfortable.
Your opening hands with the Bridge were not very good for a lot of those.
They were suboptimal for sure. I mean, I recognize that I definitely should have grabbed Boss to Star Chronos Retreat, Star Chronos the Fez, and then we got Game.
That's what we were looking at when we saw you put the fish down. We were like, oh my gosh, they have it. They have Star Chronos for the series.
Yeah.
We were like, we do it. Grab the bosses, order Star Chronos, Fez, attach one, and go.
Let's just be honest. If I'm gonna play Bridge and EUIC, I need a lot of work on it.
It would have been such a cool way to end.
It would have. Star Chronos. Okay, let's set up and we'll just change it.
Because we didn't get a Star Chronos yesterday either, or in any of the other games. It would have been the only Star Chronos that we got.
I don't know if Tanner had asked you what was the idea about not playing Relicanth in the deck.
Yes.
Because I wanted to do a 2-2 line of Dialga. Because I wanted to do a 2-2 line of Dialga, I cut it. I almost did a 1-2 line of Dialga and then put the Relicanth in instead. Because Thornton is such a big card in this deck. But I didn't want to rely only on that if I couldn't get the Dialga out in time. Because also, with the attack that does 80 plus, you have to be at a relatively ridiculously high number for it to be better than 220.
Oh, absolutely.
It's what?
You still have to
14?
get to 5 energies. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a lot. And so I feel I am learning as we fly. I'm glad that I got lucky.
It was definitely cool to see both of you coming in today with all 3 different decks than you played yesterday,
and
really embodying the spirit of Conquest and the whole idea of picking up new decks, learning decks. Right, this like you said, Archaladon, you've played it for like 2 days.
Yeah, learning on the fly.
Getting to play like these new decks that we haven't played a bunch. So I appreciated seeing a full new lineup.
What was the deck that you built last night? Because you said you only had 5 decks, so you built one last night.
So I was originally planning. So I had the Palkia built. The other deck I had built was Regidrago. You were saying you didn't want to play it. I didn't want to play it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just not gonna play it. And I built Bolt and Zard last night.
I really was going to I thought about playing Regidrago, and I didn't want to play it. Plus, there's
Regidrago in the pre-Voodoo format.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Neither of the best of 5s. Neither of you bought Regidrago at all. Getting left behind in the grand finals.
Yesterday's picks for me, I guess 2 out of 3 of your decks, and so I felt pretty good about that.
One of them was wild because I played it once only in the entire Conquest before that.
You won your
Also,
cup.
didn't play-
You won your cup with it, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I also just didn't play Gardevoir the entire time until yesterday.
That's
That was
fair.
the first time I played it in
I'd seen you
Conquest.
playing it recently,
Yeah.
and I know that like when we went to like Omaha for a cup, I know
Yeah.
you played it there. So like,
Yeah, I mean, it was always a deck I had in my back pocket.
Oh, for sure.
I am relieved and I am
Yeah.
grateful for the feedback. I hope that we can make this streaming thing more prevalent. We're starting to report leagues, so soon we should get league challenges, and I think our goal is to always have Table 1 streaming. So
Yeah, shout out again to Atlas Gaming for hosting this, letting us borrow their stream setup here.
Cole, who's the owner,
Cole doing a lot of work for us getting the stream set up together.
he
Yeah.
really wants to make Pokemon a thing here. We put in a lot of allocation requests for Journey Together, so look out for that and pre-orders for that. And hopefully we can have enough so we can do prizing for league stuff too with that. That's our goal. So, yeah.
Thank you again, everyone who stopped by. Thank you to all of the.
Brad and Zach, real quick.
Yeah. Thank you again to everyone who stopped by. Thank you everyone who played in the tournament as well. Started with 16 people, down to 1 now, final standing of Will. Congratulations, Will, on winning the tournament. Thank you again as well for Brad coming up with the idea and Zach helping coordinate it and get all of the bracket put together for it. We're definitely going to do another one of these, so be on the lookout for that. We're looking right now to start it with rotation when Journeys Together happens.
Yeah.
So in that mid to late March time, be on the lookout for the next one.
So, and thank you, Tanner and Alex, who commentated both days, and Emery for coming in today. Like, commentating for 4 hours and 40 minutes is a lot of work, and we played all 10 matches, so we appreciate it. I appreciate it from a feedback standpoint, too.
Yeah.
This is free coaching for me.
Definitely appreciate you guys giving us a full 5-game series in
Yeah.
both of them.
So,
So,
all right, cool. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Yeah, we'll see you guys